What up? Welcome to the 7th episode of TFG Tackles on YouTube and Facebook, and we are living in interesting times. What a week it was. So much Super Cup action every single day happening in the pre-quarters in Bhubaneswar, and then from Malaysia a report comes in from AFC and FIFA delegation that came to visit India about merging I-League and ISL. That comes in and it has pretty strong words for what is going on in Indian football with the two leagues and other stuff. We will get into that in detail, don't worry about it. But that's what we're here for. But first, what about Super Cup, man? What about it? Nobody really thought it was going to be this good. You know, when we were going into it, Bhubaneswar, too much heat. It's after the league seasons, and are the players going to be fit? Are they going to be motivated? What's happening on the pitch is certainly very interesting, and we have 5 I-League clubs in the quarterfinals. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Even the most hardcore I-League fans, and I don't really think there are fans of I-League or ISL. There are fans of clubs, right? But who would have said, going into the pre-quarterfinals, that we would see 5 I-League clubs in the quarterfinals and one club that has spent 80% of its lifetime in the I-League. So 6 clubs with I-League DNA, 2 ISL teams. That's what we have in the quarterfinals, and Kevin will be a happy man. He predicted that Shillong Lajong were going to knock out Pune City going into in the pre-quarterfinals. Even I can claim a little bit of a credit because if you listen to the TFG Indian Football podcast from Monday, I said Neroka are going to pip Kerala Blasters. That was also a prediction made against the going trend, but just had that feeling, that it was going to happen. Neroka, with the youthfulness, especially with that heat and the taxing environment that's there in Bhubaneswar, were going to go ahead and beat Kerala Blasters. And it seems like all the northeastern clubs have this habit of conceding, going behind, but coming back and getting the win. Aizawl FC did this to Chennai FC. We had Shillong Lajong doing this to Pune City. Same thing. After going 2-0 down, Neroka comes back and beats Kerala Blasters. But of course, Shillong Lajong is what Kevin will be most excited about. It's his favorite club after all. What did you think of the performance?
Definitely. One thing positive about the Hero Super Cup is, obviously it's I-League versus ISL. But what's more exciting and the most best part that I feel is, I think we've seen some quality goals, both from Pune City and Shillong Lajong as well. The penalty obviously was something for which I'll care to just be regretful about. But I think both goals by Pune City were top class. Jonathan Luca was scoring one of the best free kicks that we've seen in recent times, and along with that, Marcelinho, his left foot curler, finding the top bracket. I think these goals wouldn't have come if it wouldn't have been for the Super Cup. So I'm just happy to see excellent quality of goals being poured in from both sides. The I-League and ISL are both scoring great goals. Yes, for Shillong Lajong, I'm definitely very happy, and I did favor Shillong Lajong because I think they are quite a side that can have that resistance in them and even be patient to get that opportunity and grab it with both hands. And they just did that. I'm not particularly too happy about the defense because too many times we saw Pune City, especially Marcelinho, being left open, and they're up to that usual trick of playing on the counters, and that did almost play out for them. Shillong Lajong just happened to hold on to that 2-2 and luckily to get that penalty in the added time.
Of course, a lot of penalty-related issues are going on. We've had refereeing being questioned as it has been throughout the season. If you remember, Mumbai City versus East Bengal were denied a penalty early on in the game. But what I really think is that the point is not that I-League clubs are beating ISL teams sometimes. It's that whenever teams from I-League and ISL are playing against each other, it's so damn competitive. It's so close. And it's so many times it just goes into extra time, sometimes it goes into penalties. It just shows that this myth that ISL teams are like miles ahead of I-League in terms of quality and ability and competitiveness. Some people, including Baichung Bhutia earlier on, who was saying that I-League and ISL should not be merged because ISL teams are way ahead of I-League teams. I-League teams cannot be competitive. There will be a dilution of competitiveness. It's just not true. We have now the proof on paper. Don't give me the crap about how ISL teams are not playing without some foreigners. Then that's an admission that ISL teams are completely dependent on foreigners, which is not sustainable if you want to have success in Asia. If you want to really improve Indian football, you cannot just depend on foreign players to be competitive. Then you would have to argue that I-League clubs are actually far ahead of the pack because they rely more on Indian talent. Look at Shillong Lajong, look at Neroka, look at Aizawl FC, look at even Chennai City, the way they made a comeback. They are now selling players to Chennai FC for 15-20 lakhs transfer fee. So all of that is going on. We do have a sense of what it is when these I-League clubs and I-League ISL teams face each other in an open competition. And it is competitive, it is sustainable, it is entertaining, even in a warm atmosphere after the season. Imagine if we had this happening throughout the season. And that's what FIFA wants, by the way. That's what AFC and FIFA sent their delegation to India for last year. It was a task force that was looking at the two-league situation in Indian football. They went around the country. The delegation was headed by Nick Coward of FIFA and Alex Phillips of AFC. They spoke to not just ISL teams, they spoke to I-League teams, second division teams, academies, players. Everybody's opinion was taken into account, and finally they've come back with a report. Now the report was leaked to Hindustan Times. They published it, and it has some pretty strong words to say about Indian football. The most important thing that they have had to say, I think, and that the one that is making headlines all over, is that India should have a unified league system by 2019-20, which is the season after next season. We have a year to build up to that. Otherwise, Indian clubs might get banned by FIFA, banned from competing in the continental championships, AFC Cup, AFC Champions League, you name it. There will be very limited international opportunities for Indian clubs to compete in. So that is a pretty much shameful situation to be in, right?
No, it's very negative for a country like India. All the progress done by teams like Bengaluru FC, even Mohan Bagan or East Bengal for that matter, who've been there and represented the country. This is going to be bringing a bad image, a bad name to the country if they are not able to participate after all the hard work done at the domestic level. But the main points that the report has brought out, it really feels injustice being done. Because if you underline what is the highlight of this report, it says ISL will be the top division.
Well, it does not say make ISL the top division explicitly, but I get your point.
No. If it does not say, but what it says is ISL teams will be there. It's the I-League teams that will be picked and chosen. Like for the 2 spots, you have 10 spots for your ISL teams and you have 2 spots for the I-League team.
Yeah, that's the minimum requirement. They would like for the unified league to have more clubs from the get-go, but they said, okay, if you can't do that much, at least do this.
Yeah, but then this is nothing close to even being called a merger. This is just picking and choosing. Now, if it was a real merger, it should have been, you have a timeline and you have 10 from ISL and 10 from I-League playing in one unified league.
Come on, you know what's happening with the merger, don't you? Go back to episode 2, AIFF General Secretary Kushal Das was speaking to Siju, and this is what he had to say about the merger.
The merger is a word which has been kind of vitiated by the media. There was never a merger. We had a structure of a league where there is start off with 3 tiers of the league, and then going forward we will increase the league. So the merger is an anomaly. So we have to have the right structure, and we will do it when we think it is right and proper.
So there you go, no merger. It was an anomaly. It was all made up by the media. Even though AIFF and FIFA wants to have a merger eventually, that's why they have put out a long timeline to make that happen.
Yeah.
But they have accepted, at least for now, that it's all about the bottom line of IMG Reliance, who have invested some 700 crore rupees in Indian football, and they want to make sure that they make a profit on that. And the easiest way to ensure that is to make the clubs that are playing at the top level to pay them money directly for being there. And that's why most of the I-League clubs who are there by merit, who have earned their place to play in the top level of Indian football, they have to be squashed and pushed down to the second tier because they don't have the money. So that's the reality we're living in, Kevin.
Yeah, that's there. It's a slow, painful death, and what is coming out from the report is almost like an immediate death. Now, out of 10 I-League teams, you pick out 2. Now, will you be just ignoring all the progress, all the history that these clubs are coming up with? So look at Chennai City. They've just come up a couple of years back. Look at Gokulam FC, Gokulam Kerala FC. They just managed to almost beat Bengaluru FC. Then what a story that would have been. You're going to just throw that all away because you want ISL to be the top division, and I-League just does not matter. And whereas it's the other way around. It's 4 years of existence for ISL, and all the history that these clubs have created, being there. Shillong Lojang, you just imagine they've never finished in the top 2. 5th is what they finished best. Now you're going to just throw that away. You're just going to let them not be part of the top division, despite making all the efforts. It's more of a factory that they've been producing players from. And Shillong Lojang players are just going to all, even ISL clubs, even I-League clubs. This is what their contribution is.
Absolutely, Shillong Lojang are pretty much the pioneers of how to do grassroots on a large scale in Indian football. They have gone around and scouted talent from all over the Northeast India. They have multiple academies, residential academy, and they have pretty much produced more players that have participated in the Indian national youth teams in the past few years than any other club in India. And that is a huge, invaluable contribution. But those are not contributions you can measure in cash, right? Those are real footballing contributions. And in Indian football, that does not matter. What you do for Indian football does not matter. What matters is how much money you give to IMG Reliance. And that's what AFC and FIFA has more or less accepted in this report. They've said, okay, go ahead. Right now, 2019-20, have a unified league where all the real clubs with real contributions get smacked down, and ISL teams make most of the new unified league, and carry on from there.
Yeah, it's like cutting off your head. Everything that comes up, you reach a pinnacle, you reach your best potential, you reach the apex of your performance, and you just throw that away. You just cut, and as if it's an unwanted part of the body, it's just thrown away. And what example will this set to all clubs and academies who are looking up to Shillong Lojang, even as a financial model? Just last season they were able to make so much of they made enough money to even have carry on with the development plans, and yet putting up a great fight in the I-League. They had almost emptied of all their players. Just a couple of them stayed, and obviously they had the backup. They had it's a factory that's producing players year after year, and they're able to still continue. They're able to survive, not just survive. They're able to just excel in what they are doing. It is all going to be put into trash if this is going to happen. 2 leagues, 2 teams from the I-League, and all rest can be put to rest.
I think you hit the nail with that one word, Kevin: survival. Shillong Lojang are surviving. All the I-League clubs are surviving. Why are they just surviving? Why are they not thriving? Because Indian football does not let them do that. ever since IMG Reliance came on in 2010, they started immediately talking about we're gonna have an IPL style football tournament in India. So that was their goal all along. They wanted to start an IPL clone in football, which became the ISL. And ever since that day, 2010, all the I-League clubs were just trying to survive because the I-League was not marketed, our league was not promoted, the organization of the league was completely in disarray, and they had no incentives whatsoever to do better than what they were already doing. So they knew this was coming. They knew the I-League was going to be sidelined. They were going to be sidelined. So what they only did was just try to survive, not grow as a club, not grow as an organization, not grow as a brand. Forget it, because how can you grow as a brand when you don't even know if when you're going to play next, which teams are going to be in the league till 1 week before the league starts, and you're going to play in the middle of 2 p.m. on a weekday.
Really doesn't matter, because when you know you're fighting for something that you'll never get, it's really it's demotivating. It's something that it does not inspire you. Even after you struggle, you be the top of your division, and there's no way you can enter the real top league. It really doesn't matter. It's all futile. Whatever effort, whatever resources you throw into in that year, it's just going down the drain. And I don't know which club would be ready to do that.
So that was the situation that all these I-League clubs had to go through, because IMG Reliance has decided we're gonna go for franchisee fees. We want teams that will pay us money, not give to Indian football primarily. So that's the reality we have. But I think one of the positives that has come out of this report is that AFC and FIFA have tried to put a timeline on the return of promotion-relegation, sort of going back to normalcy. They have said by 2021-22 or 22-23, grow the new top division league to 6 teams. After that, open it up. The two top 2 teams of the second tier league, which will be League 1, they get promoted to the ISL. I mean the new league, it will be called ISL. And the bottom 2 teams get to come down to the second tier. One of the things that the way promotion relegation has been addressed by IMG Reliance and AIF officials throughout the last few years is that they said we're going to bring back promotion relegation, but they never mentioned a year, which meant that all the clubs, all the lower league clubs, all the I-League clubs that were going to get pushed down, they were living in the dark. They had no idea when they would get a fair chance to qualify for the top division again, just by merit, because of course they did not have the money to pay IMG Reliance a ransom to get back into the top level.
No, that really, it just puts you in the dark totally. And just like the Goan clubs did decide that since there is no roadmap, since there is no way out, even after you do your best performance in a season, it's better not take part in a tournament like that. That's the reason they just pulled out. Tempo was second division champions two seasons ago, and they decided not to take part in the I-League just because they were not. They know that there is no roadmap for the Indian football, and it's best to concentrate on your local football and development of youth, and just have them play in local tournaments.
So it's a great thing that AFC FIFA have put a number, a year on the table, isn't it?
I don't think there's, at least for clubs that will not be taken in. You're talking about 2 I-League clubs being picked up. What happens to the rest of the 8? It's almost like relegation for 8 of the clubs rather than 2 of the clubs. It's just you're sidelined. You're just shown that you're unwanted. It really does not want a club owner or a club management to put really too many efforts into a league that's really not going to be going anywhere.
Yeah, of course, what you're saying is correct. I don't think it's acceptable to any club owner that they will have to play in a lower league just because they don't have any money to give to IMG Reliance. for half a decade without even getting a chance to come back to the top division. So yeah, I guess that's something we will see how it plays out. Maybe they will have a provision where there is no relegation, but one more team comes up to the top division through promotion from League One. We'll see. But all these club owners, independent club owners, can do for now is show that they have what it takes to be competitive at the highest level, and that's what they have been doing in Super Cup. And if that's not the biggest proof that I-League and ISL should be merged straight away, completely, without leaving any team down, I don't know what is. So that happened. Of course, AFC Cup is also happening, where I-League champions from 2016-17, Aizawl FC took on Bengaluru FC, who won the Federation Cup last season. So yeah, it was a very interesting match. Aizawl FC took that lead through that early goal, defensive mixer from Bengaluru FC, but Bengaluru FC came back, persevered, and got a comfortable win in the end, 3-1.
Obviously, Bengaluru FC got a setback early on when Aizawl FC got in that early lead. And I think the mistake what Aizawl FC did was they thought one goal would be enough. They didn't really go after getting the lead doubled, or even trying to push forth and playing more in the Bengaluru FC half. All they did was they wanted to do is to wait for another opportunity, just like the one they used for scoring. And that did not come along, and that's never going to happen if you're going to play BFC, in that fashion. Bengaluru FC, how they are in the second half, and they played a great second half, and Aizawl FC had no response to that. But for me, the main problem was trying to sit back and maintain that lead, whereas it should have been the other way around, because Bengaluru already had a win in the group stage, and for Aizawl FC, it was a defeat to start off with, coming into this game. All they needed to do is trying to get that second or third goal, but that never really felt that Aizawl FC wanted to probably go in and double or triple the lead, and they paid the price for that. But Bengaluru FC, what game plays. I think they were just brilliant in their wing plays. Centrally also, Eric Bartalu there. Perez was on fire, and I think he was more involved than any other player for BFC. But a couple of good saves from Abhilash Paul. But defensive wise, I think they were just too casual as well. FC. They could have done much better had they played the ball more in the Bengaluru FC.
Yeah, if you've been following Indian football for the last 5 years, you know that a one-goal cushion is never enough against Bengaluru FC. But Aizawl FC sort of just tried to hold on to that lead, and then started conceding, and then the floodgates opened up. It kind of reminded me of that game against New Radiant. Looked like a surrender, didn't it?
Yeah, I think the plan was from the start to get one goal lead and probably see them off for the entire remaining time, but that really doesn't work out if you get such an early goal. So it makes sense if the score shows 0-0 till the 80th or 85th minute, and then you get in the goal. But this wasn't really a plan. I think Santosh Kashyap was aware of the strength that BFC possesses, but he wasn't aware that the endurance that the players have. I think that's probably the key reason that second half performance from Bengaluru FC was too strong for his side.
Yes, of course, Bengaluru FC do look like favourites in the Group E of AFC Cup. Of course, only one team goes through from that group into the AFC Cup knockouts, and BFC seem like the prime contenders at this point. Of course, Bengaluru FC also had a game earlier. It was against Gokulam Kerala FC in the round of 16 of Super Cup. That game was a lot more competitive than this one. In fact, Gokulam Kerala FC had Bengaluru FC on the ropes for most of the game. They were leading. In the end, Bengaluru FC won it, but they gave them trouble, and that's more than we can say for Kerala Blasters this season.
I think this was a treat to watch either fine groups. Gokulam Kerala FC, I think they made everybody watch in anticipation that they were close to coming to beat Bengaluru FC. That would have been a big statement. but I think somewhere experience does kick in. This was where Bengaluru FC had the edge over Gokulam Kerala FC. They maintained their calm. I think towards the end, Gokulam really thought they could take the game till the extra time. But so close, yet so far for Gokulam Kerala. But I think it was a great game to watch. Mutual respect for both teams. I think this is what the Super Cup brings you. You know, when you have two teams of different nature playing against each other, I think this is what you get.
Yeah, of course, and you have to remember that they're gonna play as underdogs against a team which has a much bigger budget than them, 8 or 9 times higher, in fact, and also got to participate in a players' draft that gave them the best players pretty much curated for them, which I-League clubs did not have access to. So I think that's what stood out in Super Cup more than anything, is the heart of these teams who were facing teams which are supposedly so much better than them and so much bigger in terms of size and resources. So that's what stood out. Imagine if this was a season-long tournament, if this was a head-like Super Cup, home and away, and it had second division clubs as well. You would have a big team like a Bengaluru FC or Minerva Punjab going to places like Manipur, Sikkim, maybe even Kashmir, taking on the local clubs from there. That would be the best vehicle to spread football in India, reaching to these far off places, acknowledging the existence of those clubs and rewarding their presence, their efforts, by giving them matchup against the biggest clubs of the country. And I don't think it would be that easy for the big clubs to beat them away in the local grounds, because it's going to be tough, just as we saw in Super Cup.
Yeah, that's there. You know, that's what gives you an open tournament when you have a lot more teams. That means a lot more games for the fans, a lot more games for the players, and even for the coaches. That means it's action around the year, and when it ends in the cup tournament, it doesn't get any better than that.
Another game that stood out for its beautiful football, you would have to mention Mumbai City FC versus East Bengal. They went toe to toe with each other, and unlike other teams where let's take for example Aizawl FC versus Chennai FC or Bengaluru FC versus Gokulam Kerala FC, where the smaller budget clubs were obviously playing as underdogs, East Bengal were playing with Mumbai City as equals. They actually put pressure on Mumbai City early on, and they kept the pressure. They kept creating chances. They kept dominating the midfield and kept drawing fouls from Mumbai City. And had the referee not been lenient, Mumbai City could have lost a player very early to a red card. So it was going pretty much East Bengal's way, and when Mumbai City took the lead through Emana's free kick, it was actually a surprise, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and what a free kick by Emana. It had to be one of the top free kicks that we've seen. I think if I can place two best free kicks in the Super Cup, it will be Jonathan Luka for FC Pune City. I think it should be preceded by Emana's free kick. It was way long from a distance. I think I think hitting the target itself was a big statement there, but then he hit the woodwork and the ball just sneaked in.
Yeah, and coming back to something we mentioned earlier in the show, very early on when Katsubi Yusa and Amna were putting pressure on the Mumbai City defense, there was a shout for penalty very early on in favor of East Bengal. I think Lucia Goya it was, whose hand touched the ball inside the box. Everybody appealed from the East Bengal team. The referee said, no, that's not a penalty. Do you think it was a penalty?
It was. I think it was an outstretched arm, and the ball hit his hand. It wasn't. I think there was no doubt that had to be a penalty, because the ball was traveling and it was heading towards the 6-yard box. It was definitely a penalty for me.
Yeah, and then Senaj just commits that foul early on and gets a yellow card. Then he keeps committing fouls, pretty blatant ones, but the referee just keeps giving him warnings. He's not going to send him off. He knew that, and that's why he just kept doing that throughout the game. And what a performance in the end though from East Bengal. Team East Bengal, I would have to say. Everybody pitched in. That beautiful cross came from the right wing, and Katsumi with his superb sense of positioning was just there where he needed to be, headed it in. East Bengal were equal 1-1. Then Alamna playing that brilliant game throughout, drawing all the fouls, taking on all the injuries. In the end, he got his name on the score sheet and East Bengal won. It was an overall team performance from East Bengal that did it for them, whereas you can argue that Mumbai City lacked that balance in their performance. The goal that they got came from individual brilliance. It was Emana scoring a free kick, but East Bengal just were the better team.
Yeah, I think this is something that we expect from East Bengal, and this is lacking for a very, very long time. So is this the partnership between Romik and Khalid Jamil at work? We have to see, because it's just the first game of a fresh partnership that we've seen. How they do in the quarterfinals is it will be sure, it will make things clear whether it's the working partnership or is just a fresh perspective for East Bengal in a new tournament.
Yeah, all that concern there was before when Subhash Bhowmik and Khalid Jamil were put together as a coaching team for East Bengal, whether they would be able to work it out between themselves. It seemed like during the game they were pretty okay with it. They were communicating with each other, they were telling each other, discussing strategy of what to do, and it worked out well for East Bengal. So they are in the quarterfinals now. Mohun Bagan are also in the quarterfinals. The quarterfinals are already looking delicious. So we have another pre-quarterfinal that went down. FC Goa beat ATK. I think we both called it, Kevin, you and me. We just said there's no way ATK is beating this FC Goa team. It was pretty much one-sided. Yeah, it was. It looked like FC Goa came in with intent. They of course have never won a trophy. They see this as a trophy opportunity. They have held on to Korominas and all their other big strikers. They are arguably the best attacking side we have right now in Super Cup, and it looks like they are in it to win it. And they're going to face Jamshedpur FC in the quarterfinals. Do you think this is going to be a one-sided affair where FC Goa play with their attack, emphasize on their attack, and Jamshedpur FC start on the back foot and try to defend and play them out? Because we've seen that Jamshedpur FC have not solved their striking problem. Even against Minerva Punjab, who don't have the best defense in the tournament, it was a goalless game in the end.
Yeah, this is one clash that I think has guaranteed as its attack was a defense that we always imagine, but I think Steve Coppell over there, he's a mastermind, and he knows how to contain attacks rather than going after teams that who possess a lot of threat. So we can expect some tightly one versus one contest in the wing backs department. Then you'll have some fights in the midfield, but goals. I doubt there'll be too many goals in this, and and obviously looking at the way Jamshedpur have played against Minerva, I won't be surprised if this goes into the penalties again.
Yeah, but going by how they played against each other in the ISL regular season, though, one was, I think the game in Jamshedpur was a 3-0 win for FC Goa. Then they played in Goa, and that was also won by FC Goa 2-1. So I don't really think they will be able to hold off this FC Goa attack once again. Minerva Punjab attack is a different animal altogether. They could drag that to penalties. I don't foresee that in this game. But that game is on 12th of April, I think. Before that, on 8th of April, we have East Bengal taking on Aizawl FC in the quarterfinals. An all I-League affair. What do you think, Kevin? What's your prediction? Do you think Aizawl FC scale a mountain again? Or do you think East Bengal, riding on the back of that beautiful performance that they put up against Mumbai City, they get the win?
I don't think Aizawl stands a chance, because the way they've been playing, they really have to sort out their strengths, and East Bengal are very clear, very sorted on that matter. I think it's going to be a mauling from East Bengal on Aizawl.
Once again, Kevin, do not forget what happened in the I-League between these two teams. Aizawl FC surprised East Bengal pretty much. It was a 2-2 draw in Kolkata and a 0-0 draw in Aizawl. Now this is the third time they're meeting against each other. They know each other pretty well, and Aizawl FC have always given East Bengal a lot of trouble. I foresee a Aizawl FC win here. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. A 1-goal win, or it goes into penalties. It does not matter. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Aizawl FC will beat East Bengal. And then we have another delicious matchup in the quarterfinals on the 11th. It's Mohun Bagan versus Shillong Lajong. Shillong Lajong, of course, are riding high after they beat Pune City. Mohun Bagan had a tough fight from Churchill Brothers, but they managed to win, and now both of them are here, and it's my team versus your team, Kevin. What do you think?
Shillong Lajong have things, they've got a lot of surprises up their sleeve. That's the reason I think whenever they are a goal down, you don't see them playing too hastily, and that's one of the key strengths, because the youth of Shillong Lajong really are highly motivated, and till the last minute you will see them fight irrespective of the scoreline. And Mohun Bagan, I think, very heavily dependent on Dika, and if he's not scoring, I think they have a problem. So for me, it's going to be either you cut off supply to Dika, and just try to find that 1 or 2 goals somewhere, and probably take it a little closer to full time with a 1-0 or a 2-0 to guarantee win. But Mohun Bagan, I think they are not looking as sharp as they should be, because of that dependency on Dika.
Yeah, but Kevin, I would like to remind you, when Mohun Bagan went to Shillong to play Lajong at their home ground in I-League, they beat them 3-0, and 2 of the goals did not come from Dika. Of course, Dika is a big part of the Mohun Bagan team. He got goals against Churchill Brothers as well. He was the high scorer in I-League 2 years in running, former Lajong player as well. So yeah, it's gonna be a very interesting game. In that game, I think a lot of people are traveling from Kolkata, man. It's gonna be crazy. It's a 7-hour journey from Kolkata to Bhubaneswar. Lots of East Bengal fans, lots of Mohun Bagan fans. Everybody's turning up over there. I think those games, Mohun Bagan versus Shillong Lajong and East Bengal versus Aizawl FC, those are the 2 games where Super Cup will really show itself to the Indian fans. The galleries will be packed and the atmosphere will be crazy. Now, Bengaluru FC versus Neroka is another interesting matchup in the quarterfinals. You would remember, Kevin, going into the Indian Football Podcast, as I mentioned earlier in the show, I called it. I said Neroka is going to win, and it has happened. If Kerala Blasters had won, we could have probably said, yeah, Bengaluru FC are easily winning this match given how they performed against each other. But now that Neroka is in, what do you think is going to happen?
Who's going to stand up against a team that is well balanced? So that's it's tough to call out a clear winner when somebody's playing Bengaluru FC. So that's it's impossible to see a dominant performance against Bengaluru, because that's the diversity. I think they can play their best with irrespective of whatever set of players are thrown onto the field.
Yeah, I think Bengaluru FC are taking this. There's just no way either Kerala Blasters or Neroka could have given a fight against Bengaluru FC. Neroka, they're a good team. It's going to be tough, it's going to be a close fight, but I think Bengaluru FC going to the semi-finals in the end. But one interesting thing, Kevin, have you noticed that the quarter-final match start timings have suddenly switched to 4 p.m? We've been having like 8 p.m. kickoffs in the pre-quarter finals, which was great because Bhubaneswar is such a hot place, humid area. You want players to play in the evening so that they don't get tired too easily. Now 4 p.m. the sun is going to be up, but Super Cup has decided to start the matches at that time because IPL is happening. IPL has started, it's going to start today, and the matches will mostly happen at 8 p.m. So Super Cup has to hold its matches at 4 p.m. when it's going to have less eyeballs because Star Sports deems it that way. What do you think of this?
Obviously, cricket wins over football, and that's never a doubt that it is happening against Indian football. Because that's the kind of treatment you get over one popular sport, and it's going to be terrible. It's going to be, it's going to be very tough for players to go through this, and especially at a stage where the stakes are so high. It's the quarterfinals, not even the group stage or something. It really puts too much pressure on the coaches and even on the club management, because it's a knockout tournament. Even if you don't play to your potential, you are going to be heading into extra time. So that's 120 minutes, and then obviously 120 minutes on the clock. It's more than that. You've got your rest, you've got your breaks, and even the water breaks at 25 minutes doesn't do too much. It's just so sad.
Yes, it's sad, it's unfortunate, it's all of that, but what we've come to learn in the last few years is that whoever has the most money dictates everything in Indian sports. That's why I-League clubs that don't have money to pay IMG Reliance are being told that you're gonna go to the second division forcefully, even though you don't deserve it. And that's why, even though the stadium is perfectly available for an 8 p.m. kickoff, the football players will have to go out and slug it out under the sun at 45 degrees, because IPL produces way more money for Star Sports than Super Cup or even ISL or any football property that they have. So that's the way it's going to be. We have quarterfinals coming up, though a lot of fans will be excited about this. For football fans, we are used to being happy with what we get, right? And this is what we have. We have a brilliant knockout tournament that's been unfolding, and now we are just reaching the crescendo, the quarterfinals. 5 I-League clubs, 3 ISL teams. Let's see who gets through to the semi-finals. We will come back again next week around 12th or 13th of April with our next episode of TFG Tackles. On Monday, we will of course bring you more in-depth coverage of what's happening in Indian football on the TFG Indian Football Podcast with IVM Podcast Studios. Thank you, Kevin, for joining me. Stay tuned on thefangarage.com for roundabout content on all of Indian sports, and we will keep covering Super Cup as it goes on. So join us next week.